If you want it, you got it. Shodredux Gamertainment. Enough said. Okie dokie, hello all once again to another one of my Battlefield 3 video commentaries. Of course, this time I'm still going through and using the M48.5, but I'm actually playing on the map labeled as Death Valley, and I'm playing it on Conquest mode. Not large Conquest, just regular Conquest. Of course, due to the fact that this is on Conquest mode, even though I am playing as my Recon still, I do have a lot of vehicle gameplay in this type of footage that I'm going to show you. So it should be good, different, and you should enjoy it, I hope. Of course, I just started the round, and the side I'm playing on is the US side in the M1128, which is also known as the Tank Destroyer vehicle that's exclusive to the Armored Kill expansion pack. Of course, my loadout for the Tank Destroyer, as a passive, I had the maintenance ability equipped. As active, I had the zoom optics, and as the secondary weapon, I actually had the cannon high explosive, or cannon HE. Just to explain a little bit what the alternate fire is capable of, the cannon HE is pretty much similar to the armor-piercing rounds that you regularly get with the tank or the tank destroyers. Just the only difference is its higher explosion radius, so it's kind of like a armored-piercing grenade. So it's okay against vehicles and other tanks and vehicles in general, but usually I find myself using it more for taking out any infantry and causing high explosions in the area. It's kind of good for like going against group infantry or anything like that. So it's not as damaging as an armor-piercing shell, but it does have a higher explosion radius, which will result in more capabilities of shrapnel damage. Of course, the reason why I have the zoom optics is because, yet again, since I do play similar to a sharpshooter or sniper, I like having the zoom optics in my tank and just being able to pick off enemies from a distance if I want to. The only drawback with it for the tank destroyer, though, is the fact that you don't get the smoke capability. So if I do equip the optics, I kind of have to be careful where I'm going because I can't deploy smoke to negate any type of lock-ons with rockets or anything like that. Fortunately, though, in Death Valley, seeing how it's dark enough, it's easy to go from one place to another without being spotted as easily. That's, of course, if you're not firing any type of unsuppressed rounds. Of course, my main objective for the beginning of this round was actually capturing A as quick as possible, so that way we can start on the ticket count against the enemy, and then I went directly for C because that's where the gunship can be taken control of for my teammates to spawn in the gunship to get aerial view and take out the enemies. And from there I decided it would be a wise idea just to sit there and wreak havoc and sit in some hiding locations so that way the enemies didn't know what hit them. Of course, with the amount of damage I was taking there for a little bit, the maintenance active ability does help me repair a little faster when I stay in the vehicle, so it has a lessened time to just get fully repaired again, which is really nice and helpful. Of course, just to point out how easy it is to be able to go to the enemy team's sides for either side, is if you look at the flag captures as of right now, you can see how you know, our enemies already captured our A and B flag, and we're actually in the midst of capturing the E and D flag. So, you know, nobody really got spotted as well as one would hope. You know, in a brighter map, of course, it'll be a lot easier, but in this map, you know, since it's a darker map, it's obviously a lot harder to be able to spot your enemies, especially if they're infantry. So once I made my capture for that flag, I decided to go back for the A and B flags to help out my actual squad mates. It looks like I would actually be heading for the A flag to help them. However, on my way, I decided it wasn't a bad idea to go and hit up the B capture point just to assist and get the quick points, number 1 and number 2, for us to capture it quickly. Of course, when I got to the B capture point, little did I know that there was actually an enemy in that location, but fortunately my teammate that just hopped over the fence there got him and took him out. Of course, around this time I noticed that the C flag was captured by the enemy team, so I knew I had to look out for the gunship, which was going to be even more trouble for me if I was spotted. But I still continued to press on to make my way to A, which I encounter an actual engineer that has the Javelin lock on, but I made a mistake of not using the Cannon H high explosives, and I actually used my armor-piercing shell, which didn't do as much damage as I had hoped. So it kind of ruined my chances in the tank destroyer. Of course, after I run for cover, I had a pretty interesting shot here. It just looks awesome, and I'm going to slow it down for you. Even though that didn't make a direct hit, I just still thought it looked pretty cool because the guy like anticipated it at the right time. Which somehow, I don't think he noticed that I was sitting behind the rock, so I went to try and knife him. And in lieu of that, I guess he had a teammate behind him that was watching his back, and I got shot in the back. And it's pretty understandable because the ACWR with the heavy barrel makes for some pretty accurate shots since the ACWR has little to no recoil to begin with. Okay, coming up in this part here, you'll see me use the tank destroyer once again, but I'm using the high explosive rounds, so you'll see in comparison of how much damage it does on infantry alone, because the high explosion radius of it does deal that amount of damage. It's fantastic, especially for infantry that are behind cover or running to make cover. The reason why I'm pointing this out is because some people like to argue the practicality of the high explosive cannon in the Armored Kill expansion pack, but here's your prime example of why you would want it, so that way you can take out your infantry easier. Even though it's Armored Kill and it's more focused on vehicles alone, it's still a lot easier to take them out with the HE than it is with that single armor-piercing shell. Of course, another thing you'll notice with the tank destroyers is that the shells tend to fly a lot farther and faster and have less of a drop in comparison to the tank shells in general. So these ones you can go a little further and you can essentially snipe with them and get a lot more range with, you know, less drop in them. Of course, this time around, me being in the tank destroyer was again short-lived by, if you've noticed, I got hit by another javelin once again and started to lose health over time. However, in this area, I noticed A was being under attack by one of the artillery trucks that both sides get depending on which flag they capture, of course. So I was trying to make my way towards the top of this building to set up a SOFLAM so that way I can spot it with laser designation, and my teammates would be able to just sit there and launch rockets at it, or to cause a bit of a distraction while I tried to make my way around at least. Because I know the artillery guy was going to be more focused on trying to figure out where he's getting locked on from, and it usually tends to be an annoyance too, because of the little beep sound. Of course, my SOFLAM was short-lived, so I continued to press onward just to try and spot him out for my teammates to get to him. But to my surprise, he beat me to the punch and launched the artillery rockets at me and taking me out quite easily. At this point, I was deciding that it probably wasn't the best idea to be recon as of right now, so I was debating on whether or not I just wanted to switch up and either use engineer or the support, and I figured I would just go for support because I wanted to get the Pechneg's additional skin for the premium users. So I wanted to work on that by just doing some C4 car ramming. And of course, to kick this off, I decided to use it with the ATV. In all honesty, I'm glad to see the quad bike make its way back into the Battlefield series, especially in Battlefield 3, because I used to do the C4 quad bike in the Special Forces expansion of Battlefield 2 all the time. It was just such a great tactic for clearing out a lot of enemies and a lot of tanks that were doing really annoying things. So it's definitely a legitimate tactic that I have adapted to use, you know, throughout the Battlefield universe regardless. And for those of you that are looking to complete the C4 portion of the Pechneg assignment for taking out vehicles, this is definitely an easy way to do it, and it's even easier to do it on Death Valley. Just because of nighttime, you can actually sit on the hill, and you'll see what I mean here. I'm just driving off into the mountaintops, and I turn to my right, and I just sit to wait until I see any enemies in the present area, just so I can run down there and take them out, or whichever one's the most threatening one. So rather than make you guys wait that entire time of while I'm sitting here waiting trying to pick out my enemy, I'll just fast forward a little bit to where I spot that enemy at the top right hand corner in the tank destroyer. So I decided to make my way towards him to go and take him out, so that way A, I just didn't want him to be slipped in unnoticed by my teammates before it was too late, and B, I also wanted to get behind him to get the upper hand, so that way I can just ram into him and detonate my C4 in time. Of course, since I was getting enough speed, I decided to bail early, let it ramp off the rock into the tank destroyer, and I detonated my C4 accordingly. Of course, since I knew the gunship was still in the sky, I wanted to make sure that that explosion didn't give away my position, but it didn't look like it mattered either way because my teammates were doing fine of a job taking out that gunship and distracting it, so that was probably the least of my worries as of right now. Of course, I decided to continue onward with my C4 antics here, so I thought it would be a good idea to try and sneak up upon this tank destroyer. So I thought I was going to be able to get close enough here and be able to dump C4 on it by sneaking around the trash can, but I wasn't. He just backed all the way up. So I decided to take the risk, run towards him, throw a couple C4 on him, and back away. So fortunately I was able to take him out from there, but I didn't realize there was another enemy behind me. So fortunately enough, I was able to take him out with the QBB. So pretty thankful for that gun here. Of course, the attachments I'm using for the QBB-95 are actually the foregrip and the flash suppressor. So the flash suppressor actually reduces the muzzle flash from the gun being fired, so that way it doesn't give any type of flash in the darkness for people to be able to spot me from miles away or close up to see where the flashes are coming from. However, that doesn't hide me on radar, so whenever I fire, my gun is still loud and people will be able to see me on their little mini-map. So I have to be careful where I'm firing, of course. The foregrip, of course, makes it have overall stability, whether I'm doing hip fire shots or aiming down sight, so it's a lot easier and reduces some of the recoil in that aspect. And the sight that I'm using is the PKAS Hollow, which is a nice sight that gives you a good field of view from the outside as well as the inside of the sight when you're looking down it. Of course, in case you didn't witness it there or paid attention to it, one of the tactics that's really cool for any type of transport vehicle is for support. If you're looking to replenish your C4 or any ammo for that matter, you can just throw the ammo box on the actual vehicle itself, and the ammo box will stay attached to it, so while you're driving you get your ammo replenished. It's just kind of a nice thing to do in case you want to do a drive-by, here's some ammo or anything like that. As well as replenishing your stock in C4 or anything. It's just a good tactic to get in the habit of doing when you can. My main focus this time was trying to take out the mobile artillery that was doing some pretty devastating damage to my teammates. So I decided to take a little bit of a awkward and dangerous shortcut here. But I was waiting until the actual artillery fired so I can make my advancement and do a C4 ram on him. Fortunately, by this time I was already close enough to him before he could even do anything and just take him out. Of course, after the explosion I decided it was a wise idea to lay low for a little bit, so that way both teams could figure that whatever happened in this explosion, it looked like whatever was there got taken out and there's no chance of survival. So just laying low in that position kind of just makes it to where I'm stealth once again and not being able to be easily spotted by the enemy team. Just because, once again, like I said, it's you know, Death Valley is a very dark map, so people's attentions are going to be more focused on where the light is coming from because they know that's where the enemy is going to be. Unfortunately, the enemy got away with the artillery here, so I kind of just wasted bullets at him and gave away my position. So I was kind of drawing attention to some of the enemy forces, especially the ones that were behind enemy lines that I couldn't reach. So I decided that I would have to get far away from there as possible, and I would just decide to make my way to capture the flag while I was at it. As I made my way to the F flag, I decided to bunker up inside this area here. Probably not the wisest idea because there is light emitting from this area and people can just see me a lot more clearer than they would if I was outside. But I had an idea in mind that if anybody were to come in, I can just rig them and blow them up with C4. But to my surprise, there was somebody that actually drove up with a tank destroyer and I just ran up to take him out. Of course, I made my way from the downed tank destroyer back to the F flag, but I was getting shot at, so I had to duck behind cover once again to recover my bearings and to find out where I was getting shot from. I did spot the enemy at the last second on the minimap from him firing his rocket, but from visibility's sake, I couldn't see him through the actual blown open warehouse. So I decided to make a wide right to hopefully flank the enemy before he came around the corner, which he did, and he's down. Of course, from there, I decided to take a look back at my minimap to see that we were actually doing good as far as positions go, and I was just going to make my way to the D flag to help my teammates. But I noticed that I heard some artillery fire, and I decided that would have been an even better idea to go take out that artillery so that way my teammates could successfully capture the D flag without being bombarded by those artillery rockets. For the most part, I was pretty impressed with this artillery driver's position, just for the simple fact that he can actually pull out from under the highway, launch his rockets, and in case he gets spotted from an enemy gunship that's in the air or from another artillery vehicle, he could just back in underneath the highway far enough to where the rockets would either hit the highway and not do any damage to him. However, the downfall with that was he was just far enough outside of the boundary line for me to make my way up and put C4 on him and take him out, obviously. Of course, knowing that that explosion once again was going to cause a lot of attention because of the lighting, I decided to go to the nearest cover as quick as possible. Fortunately, the tank that drove by, or the tank destroyer, just didn't suspect anything, so I was able to clear the area safely. Of course, at this point, things got a little dry, so I'm just deciding to fast forward a little bit just to advance to the E area. Once I did make it to the outskirts of the E flag, I decided to be a little bit more covert and crouch and make my way over to the flag to capture it, just for the simple fact that I didn't want any enemy spotting me running over to it and just picking me up just because of movement. So to capture the flag, I decided to prone near the 3 cement pylons there, which would in turn provide me with some excellent cover from any enemy fire. Of course, I decided to fast forward this a little bit again because it's more cut and dry, understandable stuff here, but then I do spot an enemy a little bit ways out, so I decided to give suppressive fire, and my teammate went through and flanked him and took him out, which I thank you for that, kind sir. From this point, I decided it would have been a wise idea to make my way towards B while trying to take out that artillery, but fortunately my teammate got him and took him out with a tank destroyer. And at that time I noticed that the flag that I had just captured at E is being recaptured. Seeing the tank there, and I was going to make my way to flank it, but to my surprise there was an enemy there and I was a little bit hasty and I shouldn't have done that. Other than that, nothing too much more interesting tends to happen in the game, so other than the fact that I do switch back to my recon and make my only recon shot on this guy that's just sitting there in the quad bike capturing the flag. You know, there were much better spots. I don't know why he just decided to sit there in the bike. Just fast forwarding the rest of the way, I do get taken out by another enemy that's coming into the flag, and I decided to use the artillery for the first time but wasn't successful. So other than that, that's all for this video, and I will see you guys next time.